and welcome to Yaya's Storytime. It's kind of gloomy out there this evening. We had a beautiful morning. We went on a nice long walk. We went along Willow Creek. We saw all kinds of nature, and then boom, it got cold and gloomy. So our story is by Patricia Polacco, and it's called The Keeping Quilt. And it's a story about an immigrant, someone who moved to the United States but wasn't born in the United States, or maybe they moved to a different country and they were born in the United States. But that's what an immigrant is, and I love the illustrations because everything's black and white except for the person the story's about, and she's got a red scarf on her head. She really stands out. When my great-grandma Anna came to America, she wore the same thick overcoat and big boots she had worn for farm work. But her family weren't dirt farmers anymore. In New York City, her father's work was hauling things on a wagon, and the rest of the family made artificial flowers all day. Everyone was in a hurry, and it was so crowded, not like in the back home Russia, but all the same, it was their home, and most of their neighbors were just like them. Boy, I know if I moved to a new country, I'd want to live by people who were just like me, that we understood the same things and the same language. When Anna went to school, English sounded to her like pebbles dropping into shallow water. Shh, shh, shh. In 6 months, she was speaking English. Her parents almost never learned, so she spoke English for them too. The only thing she had left of back home Russia were her dress and her babushka. She liked to throw up into the air when she was dancing. And her dress was getting too small. After her mother had sewn her a new one, she took her old dress and babushka, and then from a basket of old clothes, she took Uncle Vladimir's shirt, Aunt Havala's night dress, and an apron for Aunt Natasha. "We will make a quilt to help us always remember home," Anna's mother said. "It will be like having the family in back home Russia dance around us at night." Isn't it fun to make a quilt out of clothes? I'm sure you've all seen my big one. Look at everybody working together. And so it was, Anna's mother invited all the neighborhood ladies. They cut out animals and flowers from the scraps of clothing. Anna kept the needle threaded and handed them to the ladies as they needed them. The border of the quilt was made of Anna's babushka. On Friday nights, Anna's mother would say the prayers that started the Sabbath. The family ate challah and chicken soup, and the quilt was the tablecloth. Anna grew up and fell in love with great-grandpa Sasha. To show he wanted to be her husband, he gave Anna a gold coin, a dried flower, and a piece of rock salt, all tied up into a linen handkerchief. The gold was for wealth, the flower for love, and the salt so their lives would have flavor. She accepted the hanky, and they were engaged. Is it a love story? Under the wedding chuppah, Anna and Sasha promised each other love and understanding. And after the wedding, the men and women celebrated separately. And they still do in these religious communities. Ladies go on one side and men go on the other side. Probably not all bad. And when my grandma Carly was born, Anna wrapped her daughter in the quilt to welcome her warmly into the world. Carly was given a gift of gold, flowers, salt, and bread. Gold so she would never know poverty, a flower so she would always know love, salt so her life would always have flavor, and bread so that she would never know hunger. Carla learned to keep the Sabbath and to cook and clean and do washing. "Married you'll be someday," Anna told Carla. And let's see. And again the quilt became a wedding chuppah, this time for Carla's wedding to Grandpa George. Men and women celebrated together, but they still did not dance together. In Carly's wedding bouquet was a gold coin, bread, and salt. Carly and George moved to a farm in Michigan, and great-grandma Anna came to live with them. The quilt once again wrapped a new little girl, Mary Ellen. We have a Mary Ellen in our family. Rosie and Maya know Mary Ellen. When great-grandma Anna died, prayers were said to lift her soul to heaven. My mother, Mary Ellen, was now grown up. When Mary Ellen left home, she took the quilt with her. When she became a bride, the quilt became her huppah. And for the first time, friends who were not Jews came to the wedding. My mother wore a suit, but in her bouquet were gold and bread and salt. Some traditions are going away and some traditions are staying. The quilt welcomed me, Patricia, into the world. And it was the tablecloth for my first birthday party. Hello, Patricia Polacco, long before you were a famous children's book author. At night, I would trace my fingers around the edges of each animal on the quilt before I went to sleep. I told my mother stories about the animals on the quilt, and she told me whose sleeve had made the horse, whose apron had made the chicken, whose dress had made the flowers, and whose babushka was around the edge of the quilt. The quilt was a pretend cape when I was in the bull ring, or sometimes it was a tent in the steaming Amazon jungle. At my wedding to Enzo Mario, men and women danced together. Oh, things have changed. Some places they do, and some places they don't still. In my bouquet were gold, bread, and salt, but also a sprinkle of wine, so I would always know laughter. Old and new. And 20 years ago, I held Tracy Denise in the quilt for the first time. Someday she too will leave home and she will take the quilt with her. I don't know if we have a family quilt like that, but we do have a christening gown that Aunt Haley wore, and then we have pictures of Rosie and Maya in it. It's kind of special. Well, that's all for today. Bye.